Hey everyone, this is MNL2, and today in this video, I want to take a look at all the roller coasters that reside at Six Flags Magic Mountain and find out which roller coasters are going to deliver the most intense experiences. For the purposes of this video, I will not be including every single coaster at the park in this list, because some of the smaller coasters don't exactly have any intense moments. Also, when I refer to intensity or an intense moment, I mostly interpret it as having a feeling of sheer speed, considerable positive G-forces, or moments that make you feel like you're going to be ripped apart from the ride. Another thing, keep in mind that this list does not reflect how much I like each ride, or how I rank them overall in the park. This list is simply based on which coasters I find to be the most intense. One more thing, if you find yourself enjoying any of my videos, or find them interesting, informative, or entertaining in any way, then please feel free to like the video below to help out the channel, and to help me to keep providing good content for your enjoyment. Thank you! The New Revolution is the park's Schwarzkopf looping coaster, and it was also the world's first modern looping roller coaster. This ride and its loop were designed way before the more modern teardrop-shaped loop was engineered, and uses more of a circular shape instead. That being said, the positive G-forces pulled on this loop are actually somewhat impressive. However, from my experience, this loop just doesn't seem to deliver as much intensity as I would normally hope for. I'm pretty sure this loop is nowhere near the intensity of Chimera or Mindbender, two other Schwarzkopf looping coasters with significantly more intense moments. On top of that, New Revolution doesn't have a single other intense moment of the ride. The rest of the ride is just large hills and wide turns, providing a more graceful and relaxing ride. For those reasons, I believe that New Revolution is actually one of the least intense coasters at Magic Mountain. And if it weren't for its one vertical loop, then I wouldn't have included it in this list to begin with. Sunday the Ride, aka Superman Escape from Krypton, the park's Intamin reverse freefall coaster, has actually had a recent immersion in the park. Its LSMs that are used to propel the train from 0 to up to 100 miles per hour in 7 seconds were recently replaced, causing the ride to now accelerate to a higher speed than before, not only sending the ride significantly higher than normal, but also causing more positive G-forces to be pulled when going up into that spike. I have found this ride to now be significantly better than before, and has overall shot up in my rankings. However, similarly to New Revolution, this ride really only has one intense moment, and is a much shorter ride in general. If it weren't for this recent upgrade to the ride, I would actually be ranking this even lower, being the least intense coaster on this list. Nonetheless, the intensity of this ride is really limited to this one moment, and for that reason, it is not a very intense coaster overall. West Coast Racers is the park's newest roller coaster, a premier multi-launch Mobius dueling coaster. Now, West Coast Racers wasn't exactly designed to be an extreme coaster, but rather a coaster that both young children and adults can enjoy alike. That being said, it isn't a very intense ride overall, but there are a few moments on this ride that I do find to be quite powerful. The high five element, which consists of two adjacent 90-degree bank turns, provides the absolute strongest moment of lateral ejector that I have ever felt on a roller coaster. This is truly one of those moments that feels as if the ride is trying to tear you from your seat, and the fact that you get to experience it twice in one ride is amazing. The other moment on this ride is the helix specifically on the yellow track, as it is a tighter helix than the one on the white track, and actually provides a solid amount of positive G-forces. It's not really enough to make you gray out, but it's enough to make you notice that it is there. Twisted Colossus is the original Mobius dueling coaster in the park, and is also an RMC hybrid. Twisted Colossus is also known to be one of California's best airtime machines, and is currently ranked as my #1 at Six Flags Magic Mountain. At least for right now. However, I have found that the airtime on this coaster doesn't seem to be as aggressive as some other coasters that I have ridden. Most of the airtime on this coaster is floater, but the moments of ejector are very notable. The few moments I want to pinpoint are the high five on the green side, and the drop after the high five on the blue side. The green side's high five element, an Outer Bank 90-degree turn, is probably one of the most aggressive elements on a roller coaster that I have ever ridden. This one moment literally feels as if the ride is trying to rip your soul apart. Also, due to how this element is positioned, it provides a really insane combination of both lateral ejector and vertical ejector. Like, this ride is literally throwing you both this way and this way at the same time, meaning your body kinda ends up going this way, and it's really insane. Looking at the drop after the high five on the blue side, this is in my opinion an even better drop than the first drop. Since you have the full momentum of the train already speeding through this drop, the flow ejector airtime from this moment is felt on any seat on the train, not just the back row. Plus, this drop passes under the double down on the green side, providing an amazing head chopper moment on top of this. This is overall just a crazy aggressive moment on the ride. Full Throttle was the first premier multi-launch to use Skyrocket trains without being a Skyrocket 2 clone. It also opened with both the world's tallest loop at the time, and the world's first top hat loop. Now, I feel like this ride does receive a fair amount of hate due to the ride's abrupt ending after the climax of the ride. That being said, I feel that this ride isn't recognized enough for what it does put you through. there are 3 solid moments that I want to talk about on Full Throttle. The first of which is immediately following the signature vertical loop, a hard bank turn that snaps you to the right. This moment actually pulls an insane amount of positive Gs, which start from the bottom of the loop and continue all the way through this turn. This is a pretty aggressive moment of the ride that often gets overlooked, considering it follows one of the best moments of hang time you can get on a coaster. The next moment is actually after you have backwards launched onto the dive loop, and then proceed to the third launch in the tunnel. Unlike on the Skyrocket 2s, this third launch isn't gradual or continuous, but rather an abrupt thrust forwards, much stronger than the thrusts on West Coast Racers' second and fourth launches. It is such a powerful launch forward, really pinning your head to the back of the headrest. The amount of sheer speed you feel on this launch is incredible. It really makes you feel as if you're going significantly faster than you really are. The final moment comes on the top hat. At the very top of this element, you'll experience a decent bit of floater airtime, but once the train snaps over that top hat into the final brake run, I find that the ejector coming out of this hill is not only somewhat sustained, but far more sudden and aggressive than the moment I talked about on Twisted Colossus after the blue high five. Sometimes I wonder, if the brakes weren't there, this would actually be too aggressive. This ride is just powerful overall, and is such a strong coaster in general. Apocalypse is the park's GCI wooden roller coaster, located way in the back of the park near West Coast Racers. Now, in my opinion, Apocalypse is one of the, if not the most underrated roller coaster at Six Flags Magic Mountain. Out of all the wooden roller coasters that I have ridden, Apocalypse just dominates the rest. And yes, that means this one too. From start to finish, Apocalypse has some of the best pacing on a roller coaster, making it seem like you are flying at 100 miles per hour the entire time. It is a very deceiving ride in that sense. This ride wasn't designed to be an airtime machine, nor do I even look for airtime when I'm riding this thing. This ride delivers countless moments of lateral maneuvers, throwing you from side to side and twisting you in various directions, combined with endless head chopper effects as you race through this wooden structure. Of all the rides at Magic Mountain, I feel that Apocalypse does the best job at making it seem like it is trying to rip you apart and eject you from the ride in every possible direction. Now, this next coaster might actually come to a surprise, which is why I would like to reiterate that this list is based on my personal experiences. Tatsu is the park's B&M flying roller coaster, and it is arguably the best flying coaster in North America. That being said, it seems that the majority of people would agree that it is overall a very intense roller coaster. However, I disagree. Now, before you start commenting, but what about the pretzel loop? Keep in mind that I placed Revolution at the bottom of this list because it only had one actual intense moment on the ride, and it wasn't that intense of a moment to begin with. Tatsu in this case is in a pretty similar situation. However, the reason Tatsu is much higher than Revolution is because this one moment on Tatsu is arguably the most intense element in all of Six Flags Magic Mountain, or maybe even in California. Tatsu's pretzel loop is such an insane moment on a roller coaster, as it nosedives you straight down a towering inverted drop, sending you pressed down close to the ground, lying on your back, into an upright position while rising back up, and then back into a normal flying position. Like seriously, what other coaster will put you in all of these positions within a few seconds like that? Okay, hang on, we're getting there. But as for the rest of Tatsu, I find it to be a very graceful experience, with no other moments that pepper you with positive Gs, intense feelings of sheer speed, or moments that try to rip you apart. With all that being said, Tatsu's pretzel loop carries this ride in terms of intensity, and it is an astonishing moment in general. Viper is the park's aerodynamics custom loop Mega Looper, and is overall one of Magic Mountain's most underrated coasters. A lot of people hate this ride due to the uncomfortable or painful over-the-shoulder restraints. However, when you take a look at what this ride actually delivers, you might start to love it just as much as I do. Viper starts off with a pretty aggressive first drop as it bangs to the left while rocketing down, giving you some interesting positives and laterals simultaneously. Then, it proceeds to slam you into a tall, tight vertical loop, which is bound to flatten you in your seat. It's such an aggressive moment that combines the feeling of sheer speed with a solid amount of positive Gs. The ride then proceeds to send you into a wide turnaround into arguably the best moment on this coaster. 2 back-to-back vertical loops, both equally as powerful. Recently, it was reported that these loops were pulling almost 6 G-forces, which, if you don't know anything about physics or G-forces, that's a lot. Now, chances are, it probably won't reach this insane number again, but nonetheless, the first half of this ride is just relentless and super powerful, leaving you a bit dizzy and disoriented upon reaching the mid-course brake run, which, by the way, does have a sudden moment of ejector going into it. When the ride is running fast, the Batwing can pull some weird combinations of positives and laterals, and then the final corkscrews will give you a small dose of floater hang time. The second half of the ride is not nearly as intense as the first half, but if it were, then this would easily be the most intense roller coaster at Six Flags Magic Mountain. We are now in the top 5, And just a small warning, this next one might trigger a lot of you, so be prepared to brace yourselves. Scream is the park's B&M floorless coaster located in the Screampunk District section of the park. Scream is also notoriously known for being a parking lot coaster, as it is literally built on a parking lot. Now, before you go on and raid the comments with "OMG, Scream is just a stupid parking lot coaster," or "OMG, Scream is so rough and uncomfortable," or "OMG, Scream sucks," or "OMG, Scream's bad," or "OMG, Scream," just keep in mind that once again, this is a list on which roller coasters I personally find to be the most intense. So, ignoring this ride's parking lot location, let's actually focus on the elements on this ride. The first drop into the vertical loop is going to pull a significant amount of continuous G-forces, and have even caused me to gray out a few times. Following this, the ride then snaps you into a dive loop, which is followed by my absolute favorite moment on this ride. A snappy 0G roll that is approached with a lot of momentum. When you are sitting on an edge seat, or even better, the back row on an edge seat, this is the absolute best moment on this ride in terms of trying to ferociously tear you apart from this ride. It is such a fantastic moment, and the ride isn't even halfway done yet. The Cobra Roll is decent, providing a solid amount of snap on edge seats and positive G-forces overall. The ride then snaps you in and then out of the mid-course, sending you into a very intense helix, and if you were sitting on the right edge seat, you were literally a few feet from the asphalt below you. It gives you a really great feeling of sheer speed. Then, the final two interlocking corkscrews will also give you some nice whip if you are sitting on the left edge seat. Overall, from start to finish, this ride does a great job at maintaining its high velocity as it powers through its 7 inversion layout. I don't find the ride to be uncomfortable or painful, and in terms of smoothness, it's basically the exact same as every other B&M that I've ridden. Except for Silver Bullet. That thing is glossy smooth. This was actually a hard one, and I was actually going to originally put Scream above the Riddler's Revenge, but after my most recent ride on Riddler's, this thing just proves to be the superior coaster when it comes to intensity. This ride experience is actually extremely similar to Scream, with its layout consisting of very similar elements and feelings throughout these elements. What makes Riddler's better in my opinion are the constant feelings of positive G-forces throughout the multiple moments on this ride. Scream really only has 2 moments of positive Gs, the first drop into the first loop, and the helix after the mid-course. Riddler's, on the other hand, has 5 consecutive moments during the first half, and 2 more moments during the second half. In the order that these elements appear on the layout, these moments are the first drop into the first loop, the 2 consecutive dive loops, the incline loop, and the upwards transition into the mid-course. For the second half, these moments are the turn immediately following the first corkscrew, and the helix following the small floater airtime moment. All of these moments that I just pointed out give you insane feelings of sheer speed and positive Gs, making your extended legs feel like jelly. This ride violates your kneecaps somehow. The only downside that doesn't make this ride higher on this list is the lack of snappy moments that whip you over the inversions. Even on the back edge seats, this ride won't deliver the same type of snap that Scream or another ride on this list will. Moving on to the top 3, I feel like this next one might be controversial, but at the same time, I feel like a lot of people could see this one coming. Goliath is the park's Gio Vanilla hypercoaster, standing at a height of 235 feet and features a drop of 255 feet. I would once again like to reiterate that this list is solely based on the ride's intensity levels and not how much I actually enjoy the ride. Because Goliath is actually one of my least favorite roller coasters at the park, but nonetheless, for people who crave positive G-forces, I can see how people really enjoy this coaster. Me personally, positive Gs are fun and enjoyable when they aren't overwhelming or if they don't last too long. Goliath has 2 main moments that deliver excessive positive Gs. The first of which being at the bottom of the first drop, which is actually a really great moment on this ride as it is also combined with the head chopper effect of the underground tunnel. The second moment is an extremely long, stretched out helix that pounders you with endless positive Gs, enough to make you gray out for an extended period of time. So that being said, this roller coaster is overall just insanely intense, to the point where even I find it overwhelming and a bit uncomfortable. But hey, if you enjoy a roller coaster that is really tall with a strong moment of positive G-forces right after its first drop, followed by a mediocre moment of airtime, and then just a bunch more moments of constant positive G-forces only to lead you to be slammed to the brake run, then you'll probably really like Goliath. What? I was just describing Goliath. Which also means I was simultaneously describing Intimidator 305. You hear that, i305? You're literally just an upscaled Goliath when you think about it. But don't worry, you're invited to join the same club that Ghost Rider is in. The Overrated Club.
And that has been your step-by-step tutorial on how to trigger coaster enthusiasts.
But anyways, getting back on track here, Goliath is actually a very powerful and intimidating roller coaster that delivers an extremely intense experience. So you may be wondering, what could possibly top the amount of sheer speed and powerful Gs that Goliath has to offer? Well, there are actually two roller coasters that I find to be even more powerful than Goliath. The first of which is... we're not there yet, okay? Batman the Ride is the park's B&M inverted coaster and has a layout that is exactly identical to several other B&M inverts at several other Six Flags parks. Even non-Six Flags parks have bought this model. Now, even though this ride is a clone, it is likely one of the most intense clones out there. Unlike Goliath, which just offers a constant amount of positive G-forces during its helix, Batman the Ride offers smaller bursts of positive G-forces with little gaps of breathing room in between each one. To me, this makes the ride more bearable and less overwhelming. That being said, it is a significantly more intense experience nonetheless. Not only does it feel as if it is tearing you through the layout way faster than it should be, but it also combines just about all of the elements I use to define intensity. It has incredible pacing as it hauls through the layout, giving you that sheer speed feeling. The vertical loops and the helix offer incredible bursts of positive G-forces, and the two concluding corkscrews offer the best possible whip that I've ever experienced on a coaster. Seriously, once this ride is finished getting repainted, please, ride this thing in the back row on an edge seat, and this thing will surely blow your mind. The only B&M invert that I found to be more aggressive and intense than this ride was Flight Deck at California's Great America, because that first loop going into that upwards helix thing was just demonic. But anyways, Batman the Ride is one of the most intense roller coasters not only in Magic Mountain, but in all of California. Anyways, it's time to move on to the #1 most intense roller coaster at Six Flags Magic Mountain. Without further ado, I believe that the most intense roller coaster that you can experience at Six Flags yeah, it's X2, okay? It's freaking X2. Okay, so why and how does this coaster exist? In my personal opinion, X2 is the most intense experience that you can experience at... okay, why did I even write that in the script? X2 is the most intense roller coaster that you can experience at Six Flags Magic Mountain. When it comes to my personal definition of an intense roller coaster, X2 goes above and beyond. At the bottom of the first drop, you'll feel a pretty similar sensation that you feel on Tatsu's pretzel loop, as you sort of replicate the same motion, being plastered by positive Gs while lying on your back, then skywriting upwards while sitting upright, then tossed on your stomach to be in that face down position. All the while, you have that insane feeling of sheer speed driving this whole first element. Towards the end of the ride, when it transitions from being under the rails to being on top of the rails, both times, this ride feels like it is violently trying to launch you into that nearby highway over there. It is such an aggressive ride, and even though it can sometimes be rough, in my opinion, it is easily the most intense roller coaster at Six Flags Magic Mountain. It is very understandable as to why this coaster is on many people's bucket list, and it is bound to deliver an unforgettably intense experience like no other. At least, like no other in America. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video, and just remember, these are all simply my personal opinions, nothing here is factual, and a lot of these rides can be switched around and still make sense. With that being said, I would love to see your rankings of Magic Mountain's coaster in terms of intensity down below. Or, if you want, go ahead and comment the most intense roller coaster that you've ever ridden. Just whatever you do, please don't bully me about Scream, or Intimidator 305. Or Ghost Rider. Lastly, if you did enjoy the video, then please feel free to leave a like down below and subscribe with notifications turned on so that you can be alerted whenever I upload a new video. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.